Are you thinking of owning your dream homes? EGA Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings, 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview.
Let us pray in our own individual way. May our prayers be answered. My name is Sekou Jame, and I work at the Gambia Press Union. But my role here today is to chair this meeting, and it is a press conference. We will make the format to be a press conference, and I will kindly ask that we do not turn it into a forum. And the format is going to be like this. We will have a welcoming remarks from the executive director of Tango, and then we will have a statement by the GPU president, and we will have a statement by the chairman of the Victims Center, and these are solidarity statements, and we will have the statement from the chairman of Tango, and that statement will reflect the position of the entire civil society in the Gambia. And then we will have question and answer session. The journalists will ask questions to anyone who is here. Just for purposes of introduction to journalists, I will say that sitting behind me and on my right as well as on my left are all of the civil society leaders you have or you can have in this country. I wouldn't go on to name each and every one, but then we all know that the trigger for today's meeting cannot be mistaken, and it is the fact that yes, Madi Jobate, one of us, and very prominent for that matter, has been arrested. He said he was kidnapped, really, by the police. And it is for his comments that he made to the media. For us in the civil society, we know that this is not an isolated incident. And we also know that the civic space is shrinking because the government is casting a very wide web, a very wide net for that matter, to regulate speech, to regulate association, and these are fundamental human rights that when you regulate them the way the government wants to regulate them, then the democracy that we all fought for and brought about in this country, we will lose it. So therefore, this session, I must say, is also good because if one thing that we can always take away from it is that when people like Madi are arrested, and when state behaves the way that they behave, like in the case of Ismaila, it brings us together. It's been some time that I see some of the civil society leaders that we see here today. That's one positive thing. And then we are not here to complain, really. Nor are we here to mourn about Madi, because this is not about Madi. So I will invite the executive director of Tango, Mr. Usman Yabo, our veteran, to come and give the welcoming remarks. Mr. Yabo, you're welcome.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Sorry. I want to welcome first of all my chairman, board members, and heads of organizations just behind me, and I want to express how happy I am to see you on this occasion. This occasion is a special occasion where civil society come together to show force, to show unity, to ensure that what we fought for 22 years is maintained. I have a message for the head of state, His Excellency Adama Barrow. We were in Brussels some 3 years back, or 3.5 years back, in a big hall where all the Gambian delegates promised the international community that never again in this country of ours will we have torture, we wouldn't have arresting people because of their opinion. We wouldn't take people to the 5-star hotel and so on and so forth. That was a promise in Brussels. And I think it was on the basis of that that the international community were prepared to support the Gambia. I was asked to speak on that occasion. And that was the time when most of the Gambians, we jointly introduced it never again. Fortunately, when I was saying this, the current Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia was sitting right in front of me. And I'm amazed, I'm surprised. After 22 years hard work by this individual to fight for justice, to make sure that Gambia is free, we are getting into the same scenario. Unfortunately, never again is here to stay. For that reason, today, as the chairperson said, we are going to express our views about the current situation in the Gambia, particularly in reference to what has happened with Mahdi. What has happened with Mahdi, it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And so we need to make a break, we need to make a stop to this. We need to ensure that everybody is treated fairly. And for President Barrow, I want to tell him that he needs to listen to the ordinary people. The politicians are not telling him the truth. Some of the civil servants are not telling him the truth. And he needs to get closer to the ordinary people in the street. Listen to them, what they are saying. President-elect, when he was president-elect, we met him at Kairaba. And there was a promise that he would open his door every 3 months or every 6 months, we would have a chat with him. It has never happened. It's 3 years or 3.5 years, it has never happened. We want to urge him that we want to talk to him. We want to tell him what is happening in this country. We want to show him that we are still committed to ensure that freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of association, and so forth and so on is established in this country. On that note, I want to sincerely thank all of you for coming, and I want to invite my chairman to read out the statement prepared by civil society in the Gambia. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yabo. And before your chairman comes in, we're going to have the president of the Gambia Press Union. You know, Mahdi's comments were published by the media. So therefore, the actions that the state has done has implications on press freedom. And it was the same with Dr. Ismaila Toure, Cisse. The same with Mama Kande. And even the same with Fabakary Tombonjata. So therefore, I will call the president of the Gambia Press Union, Mr. Serif Bojan Jr., to give a statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And on behalf of the Gambia Press Union, first I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the civil society organizations and activists for this show of solidarity. In trying times like this is what the Gambia needs. Selflessness, efforts, determination, sacrifices, and being our brother's keeper, or our sister's keeper. Madi Jobate, first of all, is officially a member of the Gambia Press Union, has always been a member of the Gambia Press Union, a very active member for that matter. And this issue, his kidnapping and discharge, touch on freedom of expression, which is very dear to our hearts and which is at the core of what we do at the Gambia Press Union. And this is why I am concerned, this is why I am scared, and this is why every journalist, first of all, every member of the Gambia Press Union, every citizen of this country should be concerned, should be scared. I've always said this: you might not agree with Madi Jobate for his position, but one thing you cannot take away is the fact that Madi has been the most consistent activist and rights defender in this country. Madi is a very rare breed. Even those who hurt him, those who want to hurt him, those who told him that they hate him and they wanted to fight with him, he stood for them. Madi, unlike any other Gambian, is the only one that nobody can put a political party jacket on. In this country today, you are either yellow or blue or green. Everybody has an identity. It doesn't matter where you stand. It doesn't matter whether the jacket fits or not. But Madi Jobate have not come across anybody who can say he belongs to this or that, because he fights for everybody's right. So to subject that kind of a person, that citizen, to all these scare tactics is unfortunate, is painfully depressing, and it is a reversal of democracy and our democratic genes as a country, as a people, collectively. Like the chair said, Madi's ordeal emanates from a media interview or articles published or broadcast by the media. So my brothers and sisters in the media, if Madi can be invited to a police station and being refused to leave the police station even when he wanted to go, even when they told him that he was not under arrest, I think you should be concerned. We've seen this is not a new trend in this country. In the last at least decade of the former regime, we all struggled as journalists to interview people. We didn't have access to people. It was very difficult to interview anybody because everybody in the country was bullied into seeing journalists as threats or bullied into seeing interviews, media interviews, as death warrants. What happened to Mari, or what's happening to Mari, is not a mistake. It's not an isolated incident. This has been building up. You go to government offices, you go everywhere. They tell you how dangerous Mari Jobade is. They tell you how everything that is negative, Mari Jobade is. So this has been building. It's not a case of mistaken identity or a mistake or an isolated case by some junior police officer. No. It has been building up. So this is one of the steps. And if anybody here or in this country thinks this is going to stop, even if the state withdraw this case against Madi, this is mistaken. It's not going to stop. This will continue because Madi will keep on talking. And the problem will be the more you talk, the more you expose the inequalities and rights violations and shortcomings and all these issues, the more you are seen as an enemy, not even a critic or an opponent. So this is why it is important for all of us, as citizens, as people, to come together and stop this from taking place and stop this from happening to anyone else. Because I've always said this is a test. This is a rehearsal. Let's go for the tough option. Mari Jobade is the loud one. Silence him. If they silence the person who fights for the rights of me and you, what makes you think that they're not going to try to silence you or do worse than just silencing you? So when you come here, when you go out there to fight for Mari Jobade, you're not fighting for Mari Jobade. You're fighting for yourself. You're fighting for me. You're fighting for everybody else. It is very important that we send a signal collectively, all of us, loud and clear, that this is not going to be condoned. We cannot stop it from happening, but if it happens, there will be a section of the society that will stand up and say, no, we're not going to accept this. And that will not just sit and moan in their houses. This is the only way that we can stop this from happening to anybody else. People can take everything from you except your sense of reasoning, your freedom to express yourself. At the Gambia Press Union, we want to make it loud and clear that we will stand with Madi. We will stand with anybody whose freedom to express himself or herself is curtailed or is being taken away for no just reason than the fact that you are expressing your opinion. We want to make that loud and clear. And for our friends in the media, the journalists, this is about time to amplify the voice of the people who want to express their opinions. It is about time for us to stand up and give voice to people to play their legitimate role in the country in expressing their views, in expressing their opinions, because it stops. This is where it starts. They go and arrest people who we interview, and the next set of people to be arrested are us, the journalists, who give them the opportunity to express themselves. So together all of us can say no to this act of scare tactics. Some people perhaps who are responsible or who are behind Madi's ordeal are those people who stood against or who fought against such bogus charges and such laws that will kill people's powers to express themselves. So how do we support and justify and glorify and romanticize something today that we fought for or we fought against yesterday? It wasn't right yesterday, but today it's right because somebody's social status or somebody who was out of the government is today in the government. That does not work. It doesn't work like that. A wrong is always a wrong. It doesn't matter who gets to what position or whether the weather is changed from sunny to dry or whatever. A wrong is wrong and this is wrong. So on behalf of the Gambia Press Union, we called on everybody to take this fight, to come together and to fight for the freedom of Madi Jobate and everybody else to express themselves and take part in national development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sharif. And as we stand in solidarity with Madi, we shouldn't be worried at all about Madi, because Madi is okay. I mean, does he look intimidated? No. I mean, is he going to keep writing? Yes. And even more words on his Facebook. But we should, of course, be worried about the implications that attack on Madi's rights will have on the rights of ordinary citizens, particularly victims. Because when you go after people like Madi, who you know you cannot intimidate them, next time someone somewhere wants to speak, there will be someone by the side of that person who will come out and say, you see what happened to Madi. You see what happened to Dr. Cisse when you speak up. And that brings about what we call the chilling effect. And we know how much speech is important to everyone, particularly victims. And when they are denied that, like they've been denied for 22 years, we all see the kind of horrors that we saw coming from the truth and reconciliation process that we have here. So when citizens are denied that rights, then they stay back. They don't participate in public lives. They don't even want to know what is going on in their country. Then apathy sets in. And that's why we think it is very fitting to have someone who is the voice of victims in this country right now, Mr. Kijera, to come and give a solidarity statement.
Thank you, Shehu. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What we are seeing unfolding in our current dispensation is so disturbing and disappointing. The latest incident of Madi Jobate adds to a long list of reported cases of police abuse of power. The Victim Center is seriously concerned that these incidents are not isolated and are indicative of a culture of impunity. On the 30th June 2020, Madi was invited by the police to shed light to his comments on murder of Haruna Jatta, Keba Seka, and Usman Dabo. He was subsequently charged for false publication and broadcasting. The charge for false publication and broadcasting infringe his right to express and disseminate opinions under Section 25 of the 1997 Constitution, Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and the right to freedom of expression under Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. It is our position that the right to freedom of expression is a fundamental and inalienable human right, an indispensable component of democracy. What has happened to Madi Jobate is the same old Yaya Jammeh tactics being played out purposely to silence citizens in order to grow and germinate dictatorship in this country. Once again, we say never again should we allow the occurrence of dictatorship. From July 1994, all the atrocities inflicted on people in this country are caused by security forces on the payroll of taxpayers. Members and officials of various state security apparatus are seriously implicated by revelations at the TRRC on human rights violations perpetrated on peoples of this country. If anyone have learned lesson to make it right from the opportunities offered by the Transitional Justice Program, I mean, the police is definitely not, taking their lessons from what we are learning from these incidents with Mari Jobate case. There will be no meaningful security reform program when Yaya Jammeh enablers and perpetrators continue to serve and hold key positions in the police, army, and state intelligence services. Our nation's reform agenda is hijacked by Jammeh enablers and perpetrators. We have come too far to go back to the Jammeh old ways of doing things. I think we should all come together to make our voices heard by the authorities in power. We know it is election year next year. We know politicians and their intentions. They would want to get elected by any means necessary. And let us make this clear to the government of the day that they should not make mistake to bring Yaya Jammeh back to this country as a private citizen. It is going to make this country and the people of this country a hostile people. We are not going to sit and watch that happen in this country. If the government of Adama Barrow think that by silencing the people like Mari Jobate, people like John Charles Njai, people like Sehu Jammeh, people like Sirif Bojang, people like Mr. Yabo, and many others out there, if they think that they can silence them to move their political agenda, then they are making a very big mistake. We are not going to sit by and watch that happen. This nation has fought so hard to make that change that happened in December 2016. We cannot sit by and watch that to go in vain. Many people have died for the cause of liberating this country. Many people have been enforcedly disappeared. Many people have been victimized, all in the name of state apparatus, state actors, to perpetuate self-rule in this country. We are not going to sit by and wait that happen in this country. We have registered more than 1,000 victims with the Victim Center. We have registered various categories of victims of human rights violations, from enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killing, torture, arrest and arbitrary and arrest, unlawful arrest. We have seen scores of victims that are undergoing serious medical issues in this country as a result of torture and detention by the agents of Yaya Jammeh killer squads. We have had the testimonies of the junglers, of victims, of various crimes committed by state security apparatus of this country. We have seen this rule of state institutions being eroded due to political manipulation by peoples in authority. Let our government and the peoples in authority be reminded that never again shall we sit by to see the reoccurrence of Yaya Jammeh's old ways of tactics being employed in our current dispensation. Never again shall we see the people, the likes of Mari Jobate, being called into police questioning and to be held accountable for expressing their freedom of rights, freedom of expression. We are not going to sit by and watch that happen. As a nation, we should come together. We should own the process of the truth. We should own the process of the transitional justice project. We should amplify the voices of those that couldn't be heard. We should stand together in our fight to consolidate the gains of our democracy, to make sure that the rule of law is upheld by those in power. We shouldn't sit by and see those trying to perpetuate themselves in power. We are not going to allow dictatorship again in this country. Together we shall fight impunity. Together we shall fight injustice. Together we shall fight police abuse of power. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kijera. I was going to ask whether there is something that you know about Jammeh's coming that we don't know. But thank you very much for those remarks. And so now we will just like to invite the chairman of Tango, Mr. John Jai, to come and give statement. Mr. John, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sekou Jammeh. Before I give my statement, I would want to add my voice in thanking all of you present, my dear colleagues in civil society, the president of Press Union, chairman of Victim Center, members of the press. This morning, I was told by my mom that it was reported in the news that there are some undercover journalists that were present at the Black Lives Matter protest. Just in case there is an undercover journalist, you don't need to be undercover because my statement and all the statements here will be handed over to you. So you can blow your cover. Dear colleagues, members of the press, fellow Gambians, when we as Gambians decided for change of leadership, we indeed voted out a leader, but not him alone, but the system that kept him entrenched and allow him to violate our rights as a people repeatedly. We as a people, we are elated and expectant, hoping that the new leadership would in the least meet our noble aspirations of living in the Smiling Coast, a nation built on the solid foundation of good governance. Alas, this hope is dissipating at a pace that has become a concern for all and sundry, except for those who have their heads still buried in the sand. This concern has now manifested itself right before our eyes in the recent arrest in the guise of being called for questioning and subsequent imposition of the charge of false publication and broadcasting on a dear brother and colleague of ours in the person of Mr. Madi Jobate on the 30th of June 2020. On this day, Mr. Jobate was called by ASP Dabo of Kairaba Police Station, who asked him to report to the station to clarify a few questions relating to his interview with the media on Saturday, June 27, 2020, at the Black Lives Matter protest, where Madi, amongst other things, spoke about the torture and detention of Usman Dabo, killing of Aruna Jata and Keba Seka. Upon his arrival at the station, he was received by the Deputy Commissioner Pateba, who told him that they wanted the person of interest to clarify his comments that the Gambia government had not done enough to ensure justice for the killing of the 3 persons mentioned. May I pause here to ask, who amongst us has seen a report on investigations on these 3 deaths that are alleged to be connected to our security forces? What about the questions asked by their family members? Who is helping them understand what went wrong and who is responsible? Will they have to wait for another TRRC for truth to be told and then for them to have eventual closure? Madi Jobate, we are told, was informed that he was not under arrest, but yet prevented from leaving the office of the Deputy Commissioner by officers of the law. He was asked to write out a statement, which he reluctantly did, as he was called to the police station to clarify. Even though he was not under arrest, nor a suspect or a witness to any case. Upon writing the statement, without which he was held against his will, Madi Jobate was then charged with false publication and broadcasting. He was kept in the police station for 2 hours and then released on bail and asked to report the following day in the morning, 1st of July, 2020. He complied and reported at the appointed time. He was asked again to report the following day, 2nd of July, then asked to report at the prosecution unit of Kanifing Station. Upon arrival, Madi was informed that he is going to be charged for false publication and broadcasting based on the comments he made at the BLM march, and now asked to report again on Monday. Madi is being charged under the same JAME laws designed to muzzle and repress freedom of expression. The same law that was used by the previous regime as an instrument of oppression to stifle dissent and media freedom. For a government that prides itself with leading a nation where freedom of expression thrives after 22 years of dictatorship, this systemic intimidation and harassment of citizens goes against the grain of their preachings. We would like to inform the state that Gambians have gone through nursery education of false promises by politicians, to the primary school of systemic intimidation and unlawful killings, and graduated on the 1st of December, or to the University of Disappearances, Torture and Unlawful Killings, and we graduated on the 1st of December 2016 with a number of degrees to PhD level in boldness, fearlessness, confidence, and courage to withstand any system that will desire to take us back to those lower grades. In 22 years, we have seen it all, been through it all, and have now decided that never again will we be dragged into the evil clutches of a repressive and a tyrannical dictatorship. We will not be silent, and we cannot be silenced. It is for this reason we gather here today to convey our utter distaste and disappointment of this act of intimidation, and as shown in this situation and those that preceded it. We are confident that Mr. Jobate's comments, as stated in the interview, fall well within his constitutional and fundamental human rights of freedom of speech and expression. We find it unacceptable that the Gambian police force, under our current democratic dispensation, would have the audacity to arrest and intimidate any citizen, and anyone for that matter, for legitimately criticizing any organ or agency of the state at a protest. This is cause for great concern and brings back memories of the dark days of tyranny, which we as Gambians rejected when we voted for change on December 1st. We believe that freedom of expression, is the cornerstone of a democracy, and many a time such expressions will be critical of the state or state organs. The reaction to such criticism in a democracy is not to clamp down or to try to prosecute individuals or right activists. The police or the state could have simply refuted Mahdi's remarks or clarify any part of his statement that they felt is not factual or don't agree with. The state, as our protectors, should not use draconian and repressive laws inherited from a dictatorship to prosecute Mr. Jobate or any of us. This is not what we expected of a new Gambia, founded on respect for good governance and respect for human rights. We therefore unequivocally condemn this act we consider to be unlawful and a violation of the rights and freedoms of Mahdi Jobate, as guaranteed by our 1997 Constitution, Section 25(1)A, which states, "Every person shall have a right to freedom of speech and expression, which shall include freedom of the press and other media." The actions of the police constitute a blatant abuse of power and a direct violation of the Constitution. It can be recalled that the police had also called for questioning Dr. Skatrejane, the leader of the GDC party, Mama Kande, APRC interim party leader, Fabakary Tombong Jatta, and Dr. Ismaila Cisse of the University of the Gambia, all in 2017, based on these citizens' quest for state accountability. This is not only an attack on Mahdi and others mentioned, but an attack on all of us. An attack on our fundamental rights of expression. An attack on our democracy, with the only aim to silence and intimidate critics. Today, we say enough is enough. Because it may just be you. We therefore call on all Gambians to decide and to say today that enough is enough. In the light of the above, civil society hereby calls on the state to drop all charges against Mr. Mahdi Jobate and offer an unconditional apology to him, to refrain from inviting citizens to question them about their opinions or remarks, as long as these opinions do not constitute incitement to violence and hate speech. Ensure that the police always act within the law with professionalism when dealing with citizens and non-citizens in the country. A repeal of all repressive and repugnant laws that negate and dilute the enjoyment of the fundamental rights guaranteed under our Constitution. 5, to desist from using the same Jammeh-era repressive laws to stifle freedom of expression and association or media freedom. 6, to demonstrate transparency and accountability by informing the general public about the state of affairs into the investigations of the murder of Haruna Jatta and Usman Dabo and the trial of suspects of the murder of Kerr Seka, among other cases of concern. 7, and finally, we further amplify the call made by the Right to Know Gambia for the President to prioritize the ECOWAS court judgment, which was issued against the government quite recently. One of the salient instructions handed down by the community court was that the government must now open an inquiry into the events of that fateful day, 14th of April, 2016, and bring the perpetrators to book. The longer these reforms and the quest for truth are delayed, the more we will likely continue to see a repeat of the infractions by our security forces to muzzle freedom of assembly, protest, and express opinion in a democratic society. Our nation today stands at a crossroad. The impact of COVID-19 is yet to be fully assessed and understood. Have we, as a nation, considered the uncertainty in the hearts of our people about the future? The dilemma of the single parents to feed, the single mother to feed her children, the embarrassment and confusion confronting parents unemployed, yet will have to pay school fees for their children in September, just 2 short months away from now. The allegations of corruption by public officials, as highlighted by the Minister of Health, and the research conducted by Gambia Participates are yet to be addressed. The uncalled for hirings and firings as in the days of tyranny, the fresh wounds and pains of victims of human rights violations for 22 years, and of course a constitutional review process that is yet to reach a logical conclusion. These and many more are all the issues facing us as a people, are all the issues we are grappling with as a people. And we have a lot of unanswered questions. With all this going on, is this really the time to clamp down on freedom of expression? Of course not. Let me hasten in conclusion to say, Gambia, we must not allow our disappointment of today to degenerate into frustration and hopelessness. This is no time to be discouraged or to give up on our dear nation, but rather, this is the time to make real the promises of our democracy, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. aptly put it. So let us look beyond the dark tunnel of national challenges to the light of a new Gambia, not only in word but in deed. A nation with a leadership sensitive and empathetic to the pain of its people. A smiling coast where politicians are servant leaders with a passion for change, for the upliftment of their people. There is light at the end of the tunnel, fellow Gambians. We decided once, God intervened, and change was made possible in a peaceful manner that shocked and endeared us to the world. We, the citizens, will never again allow tyranny in any shape or form to take root in our budding democracy. Thanking you all for your unflinching commitment to a thriving democracy and making time to join us here today. Stay safe, stay positive in this smiling coast. We will surely smile again. God bless you all. God bless our motherland, the Gambia, for the Gambia, our homeland. Thank you for your kind attention.
Well, the passion and the eloquence with which you deliver that statement, if I were the president, I would be a little bit worried, or much more worried, actually. But my colleagues from the press, we've heard from the executive director of Tango, as he gave us a background to this incident and his interactions from the early stages of his government. And we've also heard from the president of the Gambia Press Union as he talked about how this incident affects press freedom in the country. And we've also heard from Kijera, the chairman of the Victim Center, and he told us actually that probably attempts have been made to bring back Jammeh and everything that Jammeh stood for, and that is repression. And we've now heard from the chairman of Tango, who is simply asking us to stand our guard, to say never again and enough is enough. So we will invite you to ask questions to these people, but also there are lots of civil society leaders here. If you want to direct your question to any one of them, please, you feel free to do so. But right before we do that, I'm going to kindly ask that every civil society leader comes this way. We hold our hands in solidarity with Madi, and Madi will be in the middle of that semicircle. Can we please do that? Every civil society leader, can we form a semicircle? Always should we hold hands?
Yeah, but we can stand in solidarity.
Yeah, stand in solidarity.
Yeah.
So Madi, you come in the middle.
You can come here.
And probably say never again, and we say after you.
You can stand. Maybe come a bit so that we can hear. Madi needs to feel our warmth, huh?
Yeah. Okay.
COVID or no COVID?
This is great.
So whatever you say, we
After 10, huh?
Yeah. Well, be careful whatever Madi says, huh?
Because I don't want to get all of you charged.
You see?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I think it's just to recall the words of John. You know, yeah. Well, okay, I don't want to violate another law in place, you know. But the point is never again. Right?
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
No more violations of human rights.
No more violations of human rights.
No to dictatorship.
No dictatorship.
Change for democracy. We stand for human rights, for good governance, for accountability. Never again to abuse of human rights. Thank you. Yeah.
So we get in questions.
Yeah, if you have questions,
Yeah, 3 at a time.
any
Yeah.
my colleagues here in civil society will be free to answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can go ahead. I think for a long time, let me start by saying the leadership of civil society after the coming into force of this new government or the coming into power of this new government, we have decided to take the path of consultation, a path of partnership, and not confrontation. But it is not beyond us to also use every means, every legal means within our powers as civil society to do what is right and to stand to ensure that democracy is, our democracy is consolidated. So we have a lot of things that we could do. We are going to continue our engagement. We will be putting a formal complaint next week to the National Human Rights Commission on these rights violations. We would also be meeting some of the key stakeholders in government. But we have other things. We could get into protests on a weekly basis if it comes to that. Because, you know, today I just read the paper and discovered that Action Aid gave about 2 million or so, plus 2.7, almost $3 million to 100 farmers. You know, and it hit me that what if every member of civil society, every NGO puts down their tools and say we will not intervene for a week 2 weeks, then this government will see that we have power to make change. Let them not push us. We can decide to go to the conference room and speak, or we get into the boxing ring, where there will be bruises. But we want to push the boxing ring as far as possible for now. But if that is what is going to take for us to ensure that our democracy is rooted and grounded, we are ready to pay the price. So we would see how, as things evolve. Don't worry, when you are in battle, you don't just let out all your secrets.
Another question? Maybe if you have people to ask at a time.
You just have to make your question short. I'm getting old, so I cannot retain too much information at a time. Yeah, but let's have questions.
Maybe we can have one of the ladies to do the closing remarks.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah. But, yes, can we have, if we don't have questions, we don't want to stay too long. I think we will make sure that all of you have copies of my statement, and I'm sure there are recordings on. As I said, if you are a secret undercover agent here, just don't. We are all Gambians. We are not hiding anything. So. Well, thank you for blowing your cover. Yes, sir.
Just one question. Just to ask you that, don't you think that this is the outcome of the delay of the security sector reform? That the country has changed, government has changed regime, but I mean, it's still the same, system. That the system remains still 3 or almost 4 years now. We have changed government, we have changed, but the system remains the same. The same people, the same security, the same agents that were using, the same tools, previously. That's continuing.
When the Honorable Halifa Sallah said there was no system change, a lot of us dismissed him as making a political statement. But really, you look around us, what has changed? When we were at the police station, a lawyer said this. He said, this is the same process that used to happen in the Jame days. They will call you in for questioning, ask you to post bail, charge you for some flimsy things, all in the name of intimidation. You are very right. We are bothered. This government, when they were out of power, they said all kinds of things about the Jame laws. Alas, they had every opportunity in 3.5 years to change these laws. But they have decided to leave them there in the guise of we are doing constitutional reform. What is so difficult, if you are well-meaning, to get up and say that let's change these laws and go along also with constitutional reform? It begs the question, is it that it is a deliberate attempt to ensure that our people are shackled? But today, we say never again. Any other question? We will also we will also be sending you the statements online. So, Mr. take mine. Any other question? If not, we would ask one of our female colleagues to give the closing and the vote of thanks. I think everything is clear. You have another question?
Yes, in the same way, don't you think that today we fight
Well, that fight, we have been on it for a long time, but you are right. We have to intensify the advocacy. We have to intensify the sensitization and the pressure on government for reforms, especially in the security sector, to take place as soon as possible.
I wanted to say something. Sorry.
That is the particular law they use.
We've said it in the statement that all these laws need to be repealed.
I wanted to say something, and I said it during when I was talking. We are surprised that in this very government, there were people who fought for justice for 22 years. Today, they are in the second top position. And I'm totally dismayed that they cannot voice out to make sure that these injustices are stopped. Whom do you rely on? If people would shout here, when they get into position, wow, it's all gone. This is my dismay. This is my problem.
Let me be quick. I think in civil society, we too are people that we encourage these things. I remember very vividly that some of the people that vilified us as civil society, condemned us, rubbished us during the Jame days, when they are out of power, out of employment, they slide into civil society and we open our arms and welcome them. But from now on, we must take a position, civil society. We must start to expose and shame these people because that is the only way change can come. You cannot be part of us, make noise, get into government and do as you please and follow the trend and we salute you. No way. We will shame you, we will call you out because enough is enough. And any of us that is called into government and you take this, follow this trend, we will come after you. We will call you out. We will shame you because we are tired. This is enough.
As you understand, Mr. Madi will be reporting back on Monday. In this case, I will take an example during the killer illnesses case and the rest of 36 people that were arrested back there. We suspected that they might drag him to court. So how prepared is he in his legal team? Because it might happen. He might just go and report on the Monday and so how prepared is he and his legal team? Is that happening?
Well, I will let Madi answer. How prepared are you with your legal team?
Yes.
Okay, I think he's prepared. But let me also say, civil society, we are ready to stand with him. Come what may, I would, God willing, I will be there every sitting, anytime he is called. And I would encourage other civil society members to be there. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if this happened to any of you, you will want support. And whatever you sow in life, you will reap. Mr. Baji, you want to say?
Let me just clarify this so I sit back. Yeah, so just on the legal issue, certainly the support is massive from the legal community. So since I was invited to the police and kidnapped there, the president of the Gambia Bar Association, who is Salih Tal, who was in the know, immediately came and informed his bar members. And so immediately a bunch of lawyers came, including lawyer Antuman Gay, and others, who's a veteran lawyer in this country. And they have all indicated their willingness to support and free of charge. So the legal team has not asked for any fees, but they are all committed to support this process. And many other things, as John said, we have our arsenal at the back, so we're ready. Yeah. So these are things. Yeah.
All right. I will soon call my brother, Mr. Omar Baji of Action Aid to say something. But just like Madi said, we are all in solidarity and all standing in support. As a matter of fact, one of our board members who is not in town has pledged 5,000 to support the cause. And we would encourage such, because we must put our money where our mouth is. Enough is enough. Until we make this statement, nothing will change. Mr. Baji, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for
Tango for really organizing it, and thank you, the media, for coming and supporting the cause, because without you, this message will not be projected and the public will not know about it. So we really thank you and we appreciate you so much. You are a partner. And my statement is going to be around Madi reporting on Monday. And I just want to make a request to us as civil society that we come out and go on Monday and support him at the, we may not be saying anything, but let's just stand there in solidarity with him. Because it is said here, and it's true, that this is not about Madi. It's about human rights in the country. It's about our rights, all of us. He's arrested. We don't know who will be arrested next. If this trend is allowed to continue, in the end, there will be no democracy in this country. The space is shrinking, and we should not allow it to shrink. We should really be able to push back. And one of the things we can do for now is going out to support Madi on Monday. Yeah, and the issue that he talked about the policy change, I think it's very important that we push as civil society for policy reform. Because every action that you see in the street is because of a policy. So if the policy is not changed, those actions will continue. So we need to push for that, in addition to many other things. So I would like to thank you, and let's really pledge our solidarity and come out on Monday. What time is it? 8:30. 8:30. So I think we should be able to come out. Sorry? Canifing here. Yeah. That's my call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bai. That's a very prudent call. So, yes. In fact, somebody just told me that there are many false publications that the government makes. Maybe we have to start suing government for making false publications.
I was actually going to get to that, but not necessarily on behalf of all the young ones, but we were working on something like having a media campaign, doing exactly what Mali did. We've already started saying the exact words that we said and actually daring them to arrest us all. Because we are always excited when it comes to these things. We are only waiting for the action plan of whether we should hit the streets or, because I know the elder ones, as he said, you have a cooler head, you guys are working on negotiations, but we the young ones, we are actually excited. We're just waiting for you guys to do something. Exactly. So that being said, we also think that we should start considering actually making the government pay for things like this. Examples, doing that, making them pay, use resources to go to the cost like we do when they arrest us like this.
Yeah. Yeah. You are very right. What I have lamented over and over again is that Gambians, we are good at starting, but we are not good at finishing. We start, we make noise. After some time, your family members, the community, everybody say, buy yala. You buy everything with yala, and yala to buys everything in your hands. So, so you are right. We have to test the system. There is, I think you could sue for malicious prosecution and malicious arrest. So we should test these things. If you're arrested, sue the government, sue the IGP. And yeah. Yeah. You're very right, my brother. Don't think that us in the older generation, because we have cool heads, we have radicalism in our roots, in our bones. We can switch. We can switch. We can switch anytime. It depends on the need, huh? All right. Okay. We will receive a final statement from one of the board members of Tango, Mrs. Jenaba Sabali. She will give the closing remarks. Mrs. Sabali.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to my fellow board members, members of civil society, the media, and the activists. It's beautiful to see all of us coming together to work on such an important issue. Madi is the face of this, but he represents all of us. And we should continue this kind of collaboration. Just to say, Madi, we are proud of you. Keep strong. We know you're strong already, but keep it up, and everybody's behind you. And I'm really glad to hear some of these practical steps that are coming up, because the government is doing. So we should go beyond talking to doing. And these are the first steps, but I envision it becoming even bolder. And the government came into existence because of the need to open up the democratic space. And here we are today. What message are they really sending us? And I'm glad my chairman brought it up. What are the former civil society members who are now ministers and members of parliament doing, really? So it's time they speak up. Otherwise, their credibility is eroding fast. So just to say thank you on behalf of everybody here, the media, Gambia Press Union, keep it up. Thank you for coming, thank you for taking your time, and we hope to see you on Monday and every single time that Mahdi is called until it ends. Thank you very much.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.